You are on the devil's road to a great adventure. What right have I to intervene in what centuries have in store for you? Welcome once again to the Savage Garden Talks, and today we're going to discuss and break down the fourth episode of The Vampire Lestat, which is the only episode titled after a book quote, The Devil's Road. So let's dive into it. This was such a fun and chaotic episode. I really enjoyed all the Lesman activities, and of course the Devil's Minions is getting more and more interesting every time we see something new of it. But my review, my rating for this episode is 3.5 stars. Why? Well, my biggest complaint this season is that I feel we're getting a new story rather than an actual adaptation, and this is why none of the episodes are 5 stars to me. Because Interview with a Vampire had many changes. Yes, it's not exactly the same as the source material. However, the main narrative was adapted. The main events are included. And in The Vampire Lestat, I feel that the main events are being reduced and condensed to just some shallow flashbacks. If you're a book reader and you see the few minutes they give us for each flashbacks, you may say, okay, I know this story, I know what this flashback means, even though it's short. But if you're only a show viewer and you're getting to know this story through the show, you're not getting really properly contextualized about Lestat's backstory. So I think these flashbacks are made for people that already know the story, but they are not made for people that are getting to know the story. And this is what bothers me, because you're adapting something. You need to explain the adaptation, not just create something new out of it. I'm still wondering, where is Lestat's motivation rooted in this season? Because he hired Daniel for that interview, for that documentary, but he's still so close to him. He's blatantly lying to Daniel. I mean, at least Louis, when he lied, he was doing it unconsciously. He wasn't remembering the events right. But Lestat is properly lying to Daniel because he doesn't want to tell his true story to Daniel. So what is the point of that whole documentary? I know he's telling us the actual story through the Failures albums, but what is the point of the documentary? Why does Lestat want to tell his version of the story if he's not gonna tell it? And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the show. I think this particular season is so chaotic and fun. I just think that as its own thing, it's an excellent show. As an adaptation, especially this season, is lacking in many parts. And I'm saying all of this because this is the only episode title after a book quote. So I was expected to see much more of the books in here, but we didn't almost see anything. And I find myself enjoying more the present events than the backstory events. And the present events are exactly the new stuff they are bringing to this season. But the parts that they are taking out of the books, I'm not really enjoying that part as much as I thought I would. I do have to say that the way Lestat narrates other events, like what Louis is going through with Regina and the Fang Gang and all of that, feels closely similar to the way Lestat narrates different perspectives from different characters in The Queen of the Damned. So I do like that little detail in this season. Now let's talk about Armand, Amadeo, Aru, because our beloved Gremlin is the part I enjoy the most about this episode. I cackle, and I know this might sound cruel, but I cackle at Armand trying to make amends with people from his life, because what the hell is that? I mean, he looks genuine, he looks as he's really trying, but he's our man. Is he really trying, or he's just up to something else? Because, you know, he has something going on with Alex, what is all about that sponsoring, and I think he's trying to get into Lestat's band through Alex. So is he really being genuine about it, or is he just plotting something new? One of the absolute joys of this episode was, of course, that past Devil's Minion happened. And we knew this already because they've been hinting at it throughout the whole seasons. But they are getting closer and closer every time, and I am Gosh, so dying to see how everything went through between Armand and Daniel, and what is exactly the things that Daniel doesn't remember because Armand maybe altered his memories a bit. Because apparently Armand was distracted during the interview in Dubai out of love. And not because of his love for Louis, but for his love for Daniel. And Daniel is apparently unaware of that. So how much story happened between them? How much memories did Armand altered or erased from Daniel's mind? I also love the fact that Armand turned Daniel on a plane, just like in the books. Maybe the circumstances weren't exactly the same as the books, but I love that it happened on the same place. I hope Armand also gave all of those beautiful visions to Daniel while he was transforming him. And even though it's not exactly the same dynamic as from the books, this Devil's Minions storyline has me completely hooked, and I can't wait to see more of it. It's also really interesting how Daniel took bowling as a hobby after vampirism, because it reminds me of the way he took the hobby of building miniature cities and playing with trains after vampirism to cope with the experience. So it feels like a little Easter egg to that. It's not the same hobby, but it is a hobby to distract his mind from everything happening around him. Regarding now Armanstadt or Lesman, my God, that shower scene was absolutely hot. Like, don't ask me about the dialogues because I didn't pay attention to a single word Armand said. And I don't get the function of the blood shower, like what is it for? But aesthetically speaking, it's so freaking hot and so freaking vampiric that I don't mind it. I think it's some sort of Cleopatra shower, like some sort of beauty shower or something. So it was magnificent. And I also think this was an absolute great portrayal of Armand and Lestat's dynamic from the books, because you could tell that yearning, that longing, but also loathing between the both of them. It was such a fun scene. Now, the Big Boss diss track was so cruel. Maybe because I love Armand, I know he's the devil incarnate, but oh my God, my poor gremlin, he was so hurt. And I know he deserves it, because we know, at least in the books, Armand practically forced Lestat to do what he did in the trial with Claudia and Louis. So I know he deserves it, but I still felt so sorry for him. And the song is absolutely hilarious. To me, it sounds similar to Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. And it's so random. So it was a very cruel but also funny scene to me. I was like laughing and also suffering for Armand in that moment. I was like, oh my God, why is this funny and also cruel at the same time? Well, Lestat like grab his head and touch his hair during the song. Oh my God, I can't with these two. I really can't. Regarding now Louis and Regina, I don't want to talk much about their dynamic yet, because I want to see first where is that going. So I'm going to dive more into that after the next episode, or maybe after the season is over, we'll see. But it's also interesting to see how Louis, the pimp, the one who pays a whore to sit and talk with him, is back. And this time he's doing it in the most fucked up way, because when he was a human, it was his business. It was not a morally good business, but it was the way he earned money. Then with Daniel, he needed to revisit his past. So yeah, he paid Daniel to talk to him, similarly to the way he paid Lily to just go and stay with him. But with Regina, is the New Orleans accent really necessary? It is so creepy. I feel so bad for her, even though I know she's doing it willfully because of the money. I mean, there's a poster at the dinner where Regina works that even gives us a hint of what's going on. But it's so weird, it's so creepy, and that's why I don't want to talk much about it yet, because I want to see where it is going. Where is it going to end? And I don't think it's going to have a very good ending. So I'm reserving my opinions until the end. All that I want to say, that I want to add, is that I hope Regina is more of a projection of Claudia instead of a doppelganger of Claudia. I really hope they are not introducing like this new concept of doppelgangers into this universe. Now let's discuss The Devil's Road, which is a book quote, but I don't think it was too much contextualized in the series for all of the show viewers only to understand what it really means. Gabriella does use the phrase in a similar way as in the book to refer of her and Lestat's lives in the vampirism world, to talk about how they will live through centuries on the Devil's Road. But she learned the phrase from someone else in the books that was completely omitted into this adaptation. Alessandra, the mad vampire queen from the Children of the Darkness coven, that doesn't appear at all, neither in this season or the previous one, because they didn't bother to revisit the Children of the Darkness scene. I do think that Chiana might be some sort of interpretation of what Alessandra is, but yeah, it is she that teaches Lestat and Gabrielle the term the Devil's Road, which is a medieval term that vampires use to talk about how they are devils, that how they take people from God's path. So I was expecting to see more of that. I also expected to see more of Lestat and Gabriella's journey throughout Europe, because in the book, The Devil's Road from Paris to Cairo is a journey that they embark together in search for Marius. And I feel Gabriella is the more interested one in Marius than Lestat in this adaptation, because in the books she doesn't give a fuck about Marius. She's just next to Lestat because that's her companion. But she doesn't care about Marius at all. It is Lestat the one that is interested after him. And in here, it is Gabriella the one that brings Marius' name up, like she mentioned him in the last episode when she was talking to Armand, and she mentioned him like 2-3 times throughout the course of the episode. So I don't know why is Gabriella so interested in Marius when it was actually Lestat the one who wanted to seek for him to gain knowledge about this new style of life he was living. They also need to stop with the whole Gabriella having maniac sex. Like, we get it, she traumatized her son, she sexualized her son, she abused her son. But I think they're taking away from us valuable minutes that could be spent on an actual relevant plot from the book, on sex scenes that aren't really necessary. We would have preferred to see a full sex scene between Nicola and Lestat, but instead we get Gabriella loudly moaning all the time with some men between her legs, and then Lestat between her legs as well, because why? I didn't want to see that, come on. And yeah, I don't want to speak much about Gabriella because you already know how I feel about her. I think they absolutely butchered the character. They turned her into some sort of villain that wants to manipulate her son all the time, and she's far from that in the book, and I'm not enjoying this new version of her at all. They did give us a little wink of Gabrielle from the books, because when Lestat interrupts her when she's with that Italian guy, she's wearing a braid, which is her iconic hairstyle in the books, because she gets tired of cutting her hair off and she prefers to tie it on a braid. And I like to see that. She looked gorgeous with that braid on. Please, we need to see Gabrielle more with a braid. She also said, I'm no longer a betche, I'm no longer a wife, a mother, I'm no longer a woman. Well, yeah, she's not a woman. I mean, it doesn't really cover her full transcoded arc, but at least it's a brief mention of it. It's also interesting to me when he's telling Daniel about how Gabriella took vampirism, that she was catatonic, that she couldn't speak, that he needed to take her to the coffin, that in the end she told him to expose her to the sun. That is more Nikki accurate than Gabrielle accurate. And the fact that News Nikki was there with Lestat when Lestat was telling those things to Daniel makes me think there's more to Nikki's transformation we didn't see. Like, that is the specific attitude Nicky takes after he's turned into a vampire. Before he falls into madness, he cannot speak, he's catatonic, he cannot hunt, and Gabrielle actually takes care of him. And it's after that, when he creates the theater of the vampires, that he absolutely descends into madness. So it's interesting to me how Lestat talked about what happened with Nicky in the books, and he attributed that to Gabriella to make Daniel think she's dead. So there's probably more to Nicky's life that they haven't shown yet, and I'm really hopeful to see more of that in the next episodes to come. Another detail that I loved is the fact that the green necklace Gabriella wears on the beach and that she leaves behind after she dumps Lestat is the one Lestat gave to Claudia in her birthday in season 1. So it's very sweet to me to know that Claudia had a necklace from her grandmother without even knowing it. And I also think it tells a lot about how Lestat was actually moving on from Gabrielle and her tremendous past with her when he was with Louis and Claudia, because he finally felt he had a family. But tragedy always strikes, so it breaks my heart. Okay, so the shooting scene from this episode is similar to something that happens in the book. It's not in the same context, but it's similar. Because when Lestat returns to a theater after he's a vampire, and he performs this absolutely chaotic act where he levitates and everyone is freaked out by it, there is a human man, a mortal man, that shoots Lestat right in front of Nicky, and Nicky is absolutely shocked because he sees the wound on Lestat healing quickly in the instant. So I think there was like a little Easter egg to that part of the book, like a human man shooting Lestat in front of a crowd, and Lestat obviously doesn't die by it. And then we arrive to the final scene where Gabriella manipulates Lestat to continue his rock tour because she's interested in this whole great conversion and vampires dominating the human world. There is not a great conversion in the books, that is not a concept taken from the books, but there is something similar. When Akasha awakens in present time, she does kill a lot of vampires because there was like an overpopulation of vampires in the world. And she didn't only want to kill mortal men, but also she wanted to reduce the population of vampires because there can be more vampires than humans in the world, because otherwise how would they survive? So I think that great conversion in the show is like inspired in that aspect from the book. And even though it's been weird to me since the beginning of season 1, I'm interested to see where that goes and how everything will connect eventually to Akasha. It hurt me that Lestat mocked Louis's words at the end of the episode. His whole speech when Lestat was turning him, like, come on, Lestat. Those are one of the most beautiful words Louis says in the entire interview. You have no reason to mock them, so shut up. So yeah, as you can see, I have a lot of complaints regarding this episode, but I also enjoyed it a lot. I am enjoying this season, I'm just not loving the way they're adapting the book. But, of course, I'm on this journey until the end. The next episode we get to meet Marius the Romanus at last. Jesus, I'm terrified and excited at the same time for that character. So, see you next week to talk about it.